At exactly 9 a.m., my security badge flashed red. I frowned. That had never happened before. I tried again. Beep. Red light. One more time. Access denied. Behind me, the lobby doors kept opening as my coworkers walked past. Most smiled. A few joked. "Running late, Emma?" I laughed. I guess the building forgot who pays for my coffee. The receptionist, Linda, leaned over her desk. "That's strange. Your badge worked on Friday." It did. She picked up the phone to call security. Before she could dial, my manager, Greg Lawson, walked into the lobby carrying his usual triple-shot espresso. He noticed me standing at the entrance. Then, he smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile someone wears when they already know the ending to a story. "Problem with your badge?" "I think the system's acting up." Greg took a sip of his coffee. "No, I don't think it is." My stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, he looked at the security guard. "Mike, please escort Emma to conference room B." Mike looked confused. "Sir, it's an HR matter." People walking through the lobby slowed down. Nothing attracts attention faster than someone being pulled into an HR meeting before they've even had coffee. As Mike walked beside me, he whispered, "I have no idea what's going on." "I know, but whatever it is, I didn't do it." He nodded. "I believe you." That simple sentence meant more than he probably realized. Because over the next 60 minutes, almost nobody else would. Before I tell you why my badge stopped working that morning, subscribe to Hidden Truth Chronicles, where every story proves that truth has a way of arriving right on schedule. I'd worked at Stonebridge Logistics for 9 years. 9 years. Long enough to remember when we only occupied 1 floor instead of 6. Long enough to know every security guard by name. Long enough to know which vending machine always stole your dollar. And definitely long enough to know that Greg Lawson never admitted his own mistakes. Greg had one incredible talent. If something went wrong, he somehow managed to make it someone else's fault. Missed deadline? Emma should have reminded me. Wrong numbers? The analysts gave me bad data. Client angry? They misunderstood my instructions. Around the office, people jokingly called him Captain Lifeboat. Because whenever the ship started sinking, he was always the first one jumping into someone else's boat. Even Greg laughed when he first heard the nickname. He genuinely thought people meant he was a good leader. Nobody had the heart to explain it. 3 months earlier, something unusual started happening. Small amounts of money were disappearing from project budgets. Nothing dramatic. $5,000 here. $8,000 there. $10,000 somewhere else. Individually. Almost impossible to notice. Together. Nearly $2 million had quietly vanished. I was the senior financial compliance analyst. Finding missing money was literally my job. The deeper I dug, the stranger the numbers became. And every trail, somehow, led toward Greg's department. At first, I assumed it was an accounting mistake. Then I checked the approvals. Every suspicious payment had one thing in common. They all carried Greg's digital authorization. That should have been enough. Except, Greg wasn't careless. He knew company policy better than anyone. Which meant one of two things. Either someone had stolen his credentials, or Greg was counting on nobody looking closely. I quietly documented everything. Dates, invoices, vendor payments, approval logs. I wasn't building a case against Greg. I was building a case for the truth. When the file reached nearly 300 pages, I sent it to our internal audit director, Helen Morris. She replied with only one sentence. "Do not discuss this with anyone." That was 2 weeks before my badge stopped working. Back in conference room B, an HR representative named Melissa walked in carrying a folder. She looked uncomfortable. "Emma, I'm afraid your system access has been suspended pending an internal investigation." I stared at her. An investigation into what? She opened the folder. Unauthorized access to confidential financial records. I almost laughed. Unauthorized. I'm the senior financial compliance analyst. Looking at financial records is literally my job. Melissa looked down. I understand. But this decision came from executive leadership. Executive leadership. In other words, Greg. 5 minutes later, security escorted me to my desk to collect my things. The office had gone eerily quiet. Nobody wanted to make eye contact. Except Lisa. She walked over and hugged me. I know something's wrong. I just don't know what. I smiled. You'll find out soon enough. As I placed the last photo into my bag, Greg appeared. He folded his arms and leaned against my cubicle. You should have stayed in your lane, Emma. I looked at him. My lane? He nodded. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. I picked up my box. Funny. I was thinking the same thing. He frowned. What does that mean? I smiled. You'll know by 10. At 9:57 a.m., I was sitting across the street in a small coffee shop. No dramatic music. No secret phone calls. Just a cup of coffee that was far too hot to drink. At exactly 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Lisa. 3 words. You were right. A second later. Another message. Look outside. I looked through the cafe window toward the office entrance. 3 black SUVs rolled into the parking lot. Out stepped Helen Morris from internal audit, 2 outside forensic accountants, and 2 investigators from the company's external law firm. Nobody was smiling. Inside the building, Greg had just finished telling everyone that my departure was unfortunate but necessary. Then he reached for the security gate leading to the executive offices. He tapped his badge. Beep. Red light. He frowned. Tried again. Access denied. One more time. Same result. The receptionist looked at her screen. Mr. Lawson, I've been instructed to ask you to remain in the lobby. What? Before she could answer, Helen walked through the front doors. Greg Lawson. Yes. She handed him an envelope. Your building access has been suspended effective immediately. He laughed nervously. This has to be a mistake. Helen shook her head. No. The mistake was assuming nobody would notice. The entire lobby fell silent. Employees gathered around without pretending not to watch. Greg pointed toward the elevators. I need to speak with the CEO. I'm afraid you can't. Why not? Helen looked at the security guard. Mike, please collect Mr. Lawson's company phone, laptop, and access badge. Mike hesitated for only a second, then held out his hand. Sir, I'll need your badge. Greg looked around the lobby. The same people he'd watched escort me out just 1 hour earlier were now watching him. Only this time, nobody looked surprised. Lisa later told me the loudest sound in the lobby wasn't anyone talking. It was Greg's badge hitting the reception desk. A small piece of plastic, making a very big statement. By the end of the week, the investigation uncovered nearly $2 million in fraudulent vendor payments routed through shell companies tied to Greg's associates. He was terminated for cause, and the evidence was turned over to law enforcement. A week later, the CEO invited me back, not with an apology alone, but with a promotion to lead the company's financial compliance and ethics division. When I walked back through those same lobby doors, Mike smiled and held up a brand new access badge. Try this one. I tapped it against the reader. Beep. Green light. Mike grinned. Welcome back. I smiled. Good to be back. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the quiet satisfaction of watching the truth unlock the right door, while the lies are left standing outside. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Hidden Truth Chronicles for more unforgettable workplace revenge stories where honesty, patience, and integrity always have the final word.